Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Josh Becerra from Algerian. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Shannon.
Thank you. So, could you start by doing a little introduction of yourself? I know I just introduced you, but you might do it better. And tell us a little bit about your professional journey and what inspired you to start Agarian. What was your vision for the company? All that important stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a big question with somewhat long answer, but here we go. So, I'm not an agency person to start with. So, crazy. I finished school with a Latin American Studies Spanish double major, thinking I was going to go
Oh,
into the foreign service and become a diplomat. My dad is originally from Montevideo, Uruguay. So I went to Uruguay to study for the Foreign Service exam to get to know my dad a little better because my parents divorced when I was young and to understand
thank
like
you.
that part of my culture. So I went down there with like this 1-2 year window to do all those things and I ended up staying for 10 years. I
Wow.
was working at an international school down there, but I was always entrepreneurial. And so I started a soccer camp for expats living down there, did some things like that. And then my wife and I decided to move back to the States. And at the time, I was like using Skype to talk to two of my best friends about business. And when we got back to the US, we decided to do a startup and we put together a whole deck and we pitched investors and we got some money and we started executing on that startup. And in '08, which was a tough economic year, and the startup had some assumptions that didn't end up working out, the company failed. And so the
Mhm.
three of us are sitting around in this kind of moment of failure with mortgages to pay and kids. And Colin, one of my business partners, says, I think there's something to this digital marketing thing. And so we're kind of hustlers and we just taught ourselves how to do digital marketing. We convinced people we knew more about it than they did and they should pay us. And thus, our first agency was born way back in '08. And then fast forward to like 2014, and we have this lifestyle business. It's going just fine, but we're getting a little burnt out. And so that's when we made the decision to build an agency versus just stay the three of us doing kind of the same thing. And so
Mhm.
what that's when Agurian kind of came into play. We brought in three other partners into the business and we went very quickly from 3 to 6 people. And then the business just started growing and it was great. 20-30% growth year over year for a number of years. So went from 3 to 6 to 10 to 20 to 30 people. So those were really exciting times. And so that's kind of how I got my start in this was I kind of fell into it. And I'm just an entrepreneur at heart, and we've just been growing this business, and it's been a lot of fun.
That is lovely. I love hearing the nonlinear path to agency work because I feel it is very common, especially in the marketing industry. I think that it is more common than not. I actually just for the first time the other day heard someone tell me that they actually went to school for marketing, and that was the
Yeah,
first time out of 70 or so podcasts that I filmed where someone said to me that they've had a very linear path
yeah.
to marketing.
And
But
I
I think
skipped
that's
I
great.
skipped a couple of steps. My
Yeah, you
path was
definitely did.
very winding. I didn't cover off on the whole path, but yeah, I think it's true. And we were lucky enough to kind of fall into digital marketing, which is what we do. It's kind of a broad term, but we're really focused on kind of paid media, SEO, and analytics. And so we just kind of fell into it and then started loving it and creating a business around it. And it's been good.
What do you think the hardest part was introducing yourself to all these different things that you hadn't done before when you started the first agency or the first, I guess, I don't know if you'd consider it an agency. You didn't really refer to it as that. So whatever
Yeah.
you considered it at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it was definitely more of a lifestyle business for the three of us. Um, I think that, generally speaking, I'm a curious person, and I think that the people who are successful in the agency world are generally just curious and really self starters and want to kind of just learn and grow. And so that was definitely us in the very earliest of days. We just had to do a lot of if we weren't curious, if we weren't self starters, and with like this mindset to grow, we never would have been able to achieve what we did. And so yeah, while it was difficult, I think part of our rationale for building an agency was because we were bumping up against challenges of like trying to do all of the back office kind of business side of things, but also trying to like sell new business. And then once we actually had new business, we had to do all the strategy and then all the reporting and get up and do that all over again every month and month in and out. And so by thinking about building an agency, it allowed us there's a concept in a book called Elevate and Delegate, right? Or Delegate and Elevate. And so over time, I've been able to offload some of the work that, didn't necessarily fit in my own unique skills and abilities. And so that's been really cool to be able to have an agency that's grown to a place where now there's other people who have better skills and abilities in areas doing very important work.
What was the first job that you delegated when you started hiring people? Always curious.
Yeah, good question. It was mostly so the fact that we weren't practitioners, we were kind of self-taught. The first people that we hired were people were coming from the agency world, who had like a little bit more background in kind of managing accounts in platform, just a higher degree of sophistication than even we were able to develop. So it was really like the core services that got delegated, and we kind of started elevating into the business side of things, sales and marketing of the business, the back office side of things.
That's very nice to be able to hire someone and also learn from them almost
Oh
equally
yeah.
as they're going to from you.
Yeah, there's that adage where you should always be hiring people who are smarter than you, and that's something I've always done. It's also easy for me to do because a lot of people are smarter than me. So so I think that that is very true. And some of our first hires were just amazing at not only like doing the work, but also building the systems so that when we started to hire more and more people, they could come in and have a system to work in.
What was the process of learning how you wanted your agency to run? Because I feel like everyone has a different model of how they want like a hierarchy, how they want that, or if they want that at all. How did you kind of decide, or are you still going through deciding what is the best for you?
Yeah, I would say that is an ever changing kind of puzzle, honestly. But I think that, very focused on core values. So we do have like some core values that haven't changed over time. And so I think first nailing kind of what you value most and how you think about like people and the work and the life that you want to provide for your employees and for yourself. Like you got to kind of get all that straight. And then some of the processes and decisions around hierarchy and things kind of flow from those core values. So an example, as an agency, we don't have account managers, right? One of our kind of differentiators is that our clients work with the experts. So there isn't someone in between who's kind of playing telephone between what the client wants and then talking to the internal kind of expert, a subject matter expert who's executing on the work and going back and forth between the two. So we've eliminated kind of that role, and we have to have subject matter experts who can do a good job communicating with clients, and then they're also just showing up to meetings, and they're the ones doing the work. And so there's a different degree of accountability that comes with that. And so those are some of the important kind of decisions that I think we made early on that have shaped kind of how it feels as a client to work with Agree, and how it feels as an employee to be here.
No, I really like that aspect of, getting rid of, or you never had it maybe, of a position that doesn't seem necessary, especially on it. It's understandable if it's an extremely large agency that has so many moving parts, like you would need an account manager, so to speak, in order to delegate all of the work below. But it makes sense to have that accountability of the person doing the work is the one talking to you, because it's also very difficult, not even just language wise, to be able to get across what you're trying to accomplish, or something is wrong and an account manager has to, then it's like a game of telephone. I feel like the more people that you have to go through in order to fix a problem, the harder it is to.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to determine that.
Yep. Yeah. I would say that is, in our experience, the case. And so having eliminated that role, it does require that the subject matter expert can be effective at communicating kind of benefits and value and asking the right questions and bringing up the right issues so that we're kind of always moving forward and aligned with clients. But those are skills and abilities that we work very hard to train and to get people to where they can be successful.
Yeah, communication skills are extremely important when talking to clients. I think that that is definitely a good point, because there are probably a lot of people that have these specific skills, but the communication is not there, because a lot of the time the people in those positions don't have to communicate with a client. They're just normally, on the back end kind of doing the work, and it's completed and they pass it on to another person. So it makes sense that that is something. What is your process of training these individuals to have that kind of aspect about them that you value?
Yeah. There's kind of the method where, like, I'm going to show you how this is done, and you're going to watch me do this, and then we're going to do it together, and then you're going to show me how you can do it, and then you can do it on your own, right? Like, there's like these different stages. And so I think what we try to do is like, we have a squad structure. And so what that allows for is like a more junior member to be involved in a squad with more senior member people. And then we very early on are getting them involved on the calls and in the conversation, so that they can kind of see their peers who have done it before model like the communication and the project management and the issue identification. And so just it's that kind of philosophy. There is some training as well. And then, we try very hard to, through our review process, identify areas of opportunity for every employee, give them kind of a plan and an approach to try to make those improvements. And so if those improvements need to come in the form of like customer service or kind of communication, we can identify those, and we can build strategies to try to help them kind of level up. So just kind of having that as a focus and knowing that that's important for everybody's role and demonstrating it is really how we make it happen.
I like the idea of having these teams in which you have members that are more experienced with other members. I think that's the best way of people to learn. I think that even me personally, in my job, being able to work so closely with my direct boss has taught me so much more than I could ever learn in school or in a traditional way. Seeing someone do something or learning from them directly, I think, is like the most efficient way of doing that. So I definitely appreciate that. How do you foster that kind of communication between them? Is there, like, you mentioned a review process? Do the senior employees kind of discuss those things with the junior employees, so to speak, or is that something that is implemented outside of that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So that's like the structured way in which we can help people level up when we see that they have improvement. We put it in their review. We make a plan to help them improve, right? So that's a very like kind of structured approach to it. We have a kind of a fun way that we also do this. We've developed something that we call baseball. And so we have seasons in our year, and every season, employees can pitch basically uh, different wins that they've had. So if they did something really cool for a client and had success, they develop like a short deck or a short presentation, and they have to get up in front of their peers and say, like, here's what I did, and here's how it impacted the client, and their peers then grade them on that impact and how awesome that was that we did, but also on like their delivery and how they're like communicating it. And so their peers give them a single, a double, a triple, or a home run, and then two doubles equal like crossing the plate, right? And so then and a home run is automatically crossing the plate, and then over the course of the season we just keep track how many runs does each person have, and then we kind of have a winner. And so it gamifies it a little bit. We have some kind of requirements around pitching a certain number of at bats per person, per quarter, or per season. So that just allows people to kind of share their knowledge and expertise. It gives them those chances to stand up in front of groups and communicate. And so that's kind of a fun way. And of course, we have like little trophies for the season baseball winners and stuff like that. So baseball has been super fun, and I think any agency owner listening should try it, because our team really loves it.
I think that's really sweet. It's also really nice to have an event where you're celebrating your employees, especially it's I don't know. I just really appreciate something about that because I think that accomplishments are not celebrated as much as um, you know, when you fall short, things are focused on very heavily. And of course, mistakes should also always be accounted for and fixed, and you learn from them. But I think that accomplishments should be celebrated just as much.
Yeah,
And I think.
sorry to interrupt. Another cool aspect that's kind of organic that happens here is, so we use Slack, right, as a communication tool. So we have a channel called Kudos. It's a Kudos channel. And at any given time, if somebody's in a meeting with someone else and they did a great job at presenting or talking through questions and giving answers to hard questions, or they did a great sales pitch, or they got some amazing results, people will just put it in the Kudos, like, kudos to so-and-so for this amazing presentation that they did to this client on their annual reviews of performance or whatever. And so we do have this kind of spontaneous Kudos channel that also happens. And then we do a Monday morning kind of coffee break, which is just a half hour every Monday where everybody gets on like a Google Meet, and we give a highlight of our weekend. We answer kind of a silly question. So I think this week it was, if you could master any skill, what would it be, right? So we answer a highlight of your weekend, you answer that question, and then we have a big kudos session at the end, and people just start listing out, hey, great job doing this for the client, or great job responding in this way, or selling this, or stepping up and helping me. Like I was stuck and you helped me get unstuck, or I was on vacation and you took over my accounts. And so kudos in the form, like those verbal kudos in that Monday coffee break and then in Slack, also have gone a really long way to kind of helping people feel good about their contribution, their value.
That's really sweet. I
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I think that it's also really nice not only to have higher ups, praise you or whatever it may be, but have your entire team appreciate your value and your accomplishments. It's very sweet. And I think having those I love the camaraderie of having certain communications that are not just related to work, like having the coffee break. What was your special skill, by the way?
Well, I kind of cheated. So most people were like, I want to, woodworking, or I want to, be great at a certain language or cooking or gardening. And I'm like, I'd want to be like a expert master golfer, because then I could also monetize it. And I think, you know, getting paid to play golf would be good. So I went to the money side of
Cheating.
it.
It's still a
To,
special skill.
yeah, that would be a special skill.
I
So
don't think that's I don't think that's negative. I think a lot of people when they think of if they can be really good at something, they think about the monetary side of it too. I don't think that's
sure.
an insane thing. But I appreciate those modes of communication that are not just work related. I think it helps a team feel cared about and valued, and also, in kind of enforces that the way in which different employees interact with each other, like how like a space where people co-work actually feels like a comfortable setting, whereas if you're just working, I think obviously to have a level of a professional environment is important in a professional environment, but there's this I think there's this line where it goes too far, where you don't feel comfortable saying certain things or that are important to mention or whatever it may be, because you don't feel that you know someone on a personal level. And I think that to have a good work environment, you need to know people on a personal level
Yeah.
to an extent, in order to understand where they're coming from, how they work, and how they communicate, because everyone communicates differently or prefers certain things or ways of receiving feedback, and all these different things, and you get to learn those through, I think, non-work settings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's true. And I mean, I'm not saying we've got all this all figured out, right? We are definitely, we've never really come back to the office. That's not really our vibe or what we've wanted to do post COVID. So we do have a lot more people working, the way that they want to work, and how they want to work and where they want to work, which is great. But it does present challenges around kind of culture and unity and people getting to know one another. So we're making our best efforts at trying to find ways to do that. And I think some of these things are really effective. And we do still have people come in on, certain days, and that's also helpful. But yeah, building like relationships with people, we spend a lot of our waking hours with the people we work with, and it's important to have those good relationships at work. So I feel proud of how our team kind of shows up for one another, and it's all on them, right? It's not really about me. So it's just really cool to see how kind of the company culture is embedded within our folks.
That's really sweet, and it's really lovely to be proud of that too, because I think that that shows that you, even though you say it has nothing to do with you, that shows that you still created a good environment to be in. Like, I think that obviously it depends on the you know the interactions between employees. Sometimes you can't help that people butt heads and different things like that, but I think that fostering a good and safe environment is something that you do by the practices that you instill and the way in which you interact with your employees as well, which is that shows that if you can be proud of the way in which they interact with each other, that feels like you probably contributed to that. So I wouldn't sell yourself short like that.
Thanks so
But
much.
speaking, yeah, of course. But so speaking of things to be proud of, you mentioned the baseball thing that you guys do. Is there a client success story that you're particularly proud of that you think was something that stuck with you, that you really, really are proud of your team for doing?
I think the way I'd like to answer that is just by saying, in the last year, we um, revamped kind of the way in which we wanted to interact with clients. So, versus like looking at like some win from a client, a particular client, I think more than anything in the last year, we focused on how is it that we could improve even more the way in which we are aligned with our clients and what their goals are, the way that we are able to communicate um, the things that we're working on with them, so that it's clear to them that here's what's being worked on and here's how it aligns to the overarching goal. And then create a way in which they can easily access like documents online that show them who's working on what of those things, and if those things are on track or off track. So it's just the result of that was what we call our program workbooks, and I think this was probably our biggest innovation in 2024. And it's a shared workbook where clients can see it, we can see it. It clearly states the goals that we're trying to accomplish together. It takes annual goals and divides them up into quarters, into kind of a roadmap that are agreed upon, and then it takes those quarters and it divides them up into kind of weekly tasks and goals with people assigned. And so like there's such a high degree of accountability and transparency in the process. Um, it just has set all of our clients kind of up for success, and our team up for success in helping them reach their goals. So if there's one thing that I look at in 2024 that I'm like super proud of, it's the work that was put into like doing uh, the like having the hard conversations that allow us to develop a tool that can benefit all of our clients.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. It's I commend one because I'm assuming that this is in response to somewhat of a problem, not necessarily on the employee side or maybe like just back and forth, but between client and employee. But I think that being clear and transparent with what you're doing is sometimes difficult depending on the communication style in which you have set up.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that it's sort of impossible to update a client on everything possible that's happening if you're just doing phone calls or emailing or whatever it may be. So to have this type of portal, so to speak, to be able to like communicate that and so that they can see everything live is incredible, and also a testament to being able to say like, hey, this isn't completely efficient, and be able to admit that, because I think that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to be able to do, if they think if they're proud of their work. I think that
Yeah.
that's not easy.
Yeah, I would say like prior to having the program workbook, we were doing a lot of these things, and I
Mhm.
was still very proud of the team and the way that they could align their work to the client's goals and get drive success and get results for them. But I think by like creating a more standardized process, what we've been able to do is overcome a couple of like what we constantly hear are challenges from prospective clients that come to us saying, we're working with an agency today and kind of this is what's happening and we're not comfortable with it. So we're looking for a new partner. And so what we're trying to do is develop these kind of tools to address some of those challenges. So, for example, people come to us and say, I don't know what my agency is working on. Well, with our program workbook, you know exactly what we're working on, who's working on it, and if it's on track or off track. Um, we'll have people show up and say, we've got a lot of turnover in our on our agency side. So like we're working with one person, and then 3 months later they're either promoted or they leave the agency, and now we have to re-explain kind of where we were in the process with the new person. And so we've developed this tool along with one other to really like have the insights, the recommendations, and the strategies fully documented. So anytime if we were to have turnover, which thankfully we don't have a ton of churn on our team because I think we do good by them. But when that does happen, there's like notes. There's like a person can go back and actually like, understand what are we trying to do with this client? What are their top goals and objectives? What have we been doing in the last quarter, in the last month, in the last couple of weeks? And it's very easy to like pick up and not miss a beat. So I think, it was in response to like trying to build a system that like eliminates or mitigates as best possible some of the challenges that we were hearing from prospective clients coming in the door.
Yeah, no, that's incredible because it's also a way of, being able to accept more people, especially when if you hear that they have a problem and you know that you have the same kind of way of doing things, then obviously, you're not going to take them on because you're not going to do any differently than the last client. And it's okay that you do things differently than someone, doesn't prefer. I mean, like, that just might not be the right agency fit, but to be able to remedy those issues and move forward is amazing. And to standardize the way in which you do things, I think, is also helpful for everyone involved and not just the client, because I completely agree that there's people that are absent sometimes for extended period of times that can be not foreseen, and then there's there's turnover rates and all these different factors that go into things that you can't necessarily expect. But to have the receipts, so to speak, of everything that you do, every encounter or whatever it may be, or every project that you work on, all these different elements of the business, you're able to almost seamlessly be able to move this to a different person, so that even if they do experience something that's on a similar level of what they had at a previous agency, it's not giving those negative effects, so to speak.
Yep, there's a backbone to it. It's very clear. Someone who knows the system can just plug into the system. So that's what I'm like super proud of in 2024, the team that we were able to accomplish this. And I think it really benefits our clients.
Well, congratulations, one, on completing that, and also for, considering your clients in that way, because I think that is, it's something that's admirable and difficult, I think, for a lot of people to admit that there's like a fault in the way in which they do things. Maybe, it's not necessarily, on you, but it's something that, you can improve upon, and that's really something that you don't always see. So I think that's incredible, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that is almost humbling a little bit to know that you were able to improve upon a large part of your system and accomplish it. That's a very difficult feat, and a lot of people won't even go about trying to because they think that it's too much.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful. I think our clients are benefiting. I think it makes the work more seamless for the team. So wins all the way around.
Well, I think this is a wonderful note to end on, especially I can see how proud you are of your team, and I think that's a really great thing to see. I think that, again, we talked about before this, but agencies, I see a good evolution happening. I think that there's a lot of secrecy and lack of transparency, I think, when they started, and I think that just comes with a newer industry, so to speak. But I'm really happy to see trends like this, and it was really nice to chat with you about all the things that you're implementing, and the good practices that you have instilled in your agency. I think that's really great, and I hope to see more of that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. Please don't forget to catch all of our episodes to be able to learn like I get to do, like from Josh.